Hi everybody, it's Mel here. Now, little birdie's told me that some of you are struggling a little bit with the box frame on the Amazing Apertures USB. So I thought I would show you exactly how to put one together. So I've got part of it done, but I'm going to show you where you get the file from, how you cut it on your mat, and then how we build it. So your USB is then popped into the side of your machine, and we're working on the CM600, which is the original machine. So anybody can use these USBs. We're going to go into patterns and save data and into the USB. Your papers won't open on your scan and cut there for your computer, but your SVG files will. So you've got your scenes, your tunnel card and your box frames. So your box frames, you've got three options: 6x8, 8x8 and 10x8. So we're going to do a 6x8 rectangle. So on here you've got back one and back two. We want the sides and the top and the bottom. So we scroll down until we get to the side, and that's your cutting file. So you press OK and you cut that out twice because you want two long sides. So that's how you find that one. And then if we go into pattern and save data and USB again, back into the SVG, back into the box frames and into the same size, when we go down, you will find the top and the base. So that's the top and the bottom edges. So there's your cutting pieces. Now what I would recommend you do on this one is go into this box that's your arrangement function. Click on that and just get it to fit them on any which way it can, because it will resort them into a better way for your cardstock. So you'll have all this cardstock left over rather than bits here and there. So that's what I do with mine. So once you've got that cut, you need two of those as well, you will have this. And what you need to think about is how the frame builds. So you have got some solid pieces, some solid rectangles there, like that. You've got some solid shapes like this. And you've got some solid some shapes that have got score lines down the middle. And then you've got two pieces that look like that. Okay, so you've got tabs, which are the ones that are going to fold in half, and you've got your front and back and then your side pieces. So I'm going to explain to you now the way that I do it. So I take all the pieces that have got the perforation line down the middle, and I use my scraper to make sure that they've got a really nice crease line right to the end, because what I get the girls to do is stop the perforation line before it gets right to the end so that it doesn't tear. Okay, so you just want to finish off that crease there and make sure that it's really nice and crisp. And then the same with this one, and the same with this one. And give them a really good press down, and then the final one. So you can see there, you see how it stops there and there. So we need to make sure that this is nice and creased. If you just fold it like that, can you see how it doesn't crease naturally? It's because the perforation line stops short, like that. All right, so we've got our 4 tabs. So we need to think about what our box frame is going to look like as we're building it. So this is going to be the front, and the mitered corner will always go from the inside up to the corner. It won't be like that, right? So it's that way that we start, but we need a tab on this. We need one on this side and one on this side. So there's only one tab that will fit on this side, and that's a smaller one. So you'll pick that up and you're going to glue that onto there. All right, and you need to be accurate with your gluing. So you need to make sure that this straight edge lines up perfectly to that perforation line. It's important because otherwise they won't all line up together. So I fold mine in half like this and hold it while I apply the glue. And you can use red liner tape for this if you want to, but I prefer personally wet glue, just because it gives me a little bit of movement. And if I don't get it down perfectly the first time, I can lift it. But it's whatever your preference is. That's not a rule, and it's not even a guideline. It's just the fact that I like working with wet glue. So it's up to you, whatever you prefer. And I'm just going to put a nice layer right the way across, making sure I'm going right up to that perforation line and right back down to that straight edge like that, okay? Make sure I've got glue on. And then what I do is lie it flat on my desk, pick up this piece and start at the top. So I'm making sure that that angle there is continual. It's not slightly up or slightly down. It's perfect and it lines up accurately with that perforation line like that, okay? And then fold it over and just make sure that it's level right the way across. So if you can put it there and run your finger along without it going up and down, then you know you're in the right place, okay? So that's the first tab on this side. But what we now need to do is put a tab on this side. So we're going to take the longer one this time. You've got 2 of each because that is now going to sit onto there like that. Okay, and it looks a bit strange, but the reason that I got the team to build it individual pieces is so that you can make it shallower or deeper. Because if we'd just done one, you would never be able to accurately gauge how deep it was going to be until you cut it and glued it. So I'll show you what we need to change once we've done all this bit as well. So again, I'm going to fold this in half and I'm going to put my glue. Just going to work this way because it's a little bit easier for me to hold like that, right the way along the top edge there. Down the sides and then just fill it in. You don't need too much glue at all, but you need to make sure that it's got a covering on it. And I'm using American Crafts cardstock here, which is a nice weight for your box frames. So I'm just going to put the glue on here, making sure I go right to those tips because you don't want those corner bits to start lifting. So right in there, open it out, put it flat on your desk and then pick this one up and start at the top or the bottom, doesn't matter. But you just need to make sure that top edge is level and continual, then everything else will line up perfectly by the time you get down to the bottom, okay? And then give it a press down and then fold it over and just make sure that it's level right along there, which that is. So that now is the front of my box frame, okay? So it's going to sit like that. So now what we need to do is put the side piece on, and again there's only one long piece and that's the only piece that will fit on that tab. So then we're creating the depth of our box like this. So this time we're going to put glue on here. So we're going to put glue on the other side of the tab, or the other half of the tab, not the other side, because the other side will be the other half. So on the other side of that perforation line, and then we're going to put our glue along here like this. Okay, making sure you go right up to those corners, and you can use your fingers just to smooth that glue out a little bit. Put it flat on the table, lift this up and pop that there and push it into that edge, okay? Make sure that it's even right the way along, and if you're not sure, if you think no it might be a little bit out, you can take this off because it's wet glue. If that was red liner tape, you'd be starting again right now, but it is your choice. Okay, so I'm going to press that down and push that up, and it should just look like there's a very fine score line all the way down there, or a very fine cut line. That's when you know that it's lined up perfectly because those edges of card are pushed together. All right, so we've now got our front and our side. So now we need to attach another one of these underneath here. So we need our next tab again, and the smallest one won't fit, so it's got to be the longest one. So again, we're going to put our glue on these tabs. We're going to go right up to that corner, right along that line. And don't worry about getting a little bit of wet glue where you don't want it. You can always use an eraser and just rub it out. So don't worry about using wet, getting wet glue in other areas. Just let it dry and then you can rub it away. Right, so there. Lay that flat on your desk, like that. We're going to pick this up. So we're always sticking this to our tabs. And again, I'm going to make sure that I've got it right in that top corner. And you'll know if you have or not, because if the bottom one matches perfectly, then you know you're in the right place. If it's a little bit too long, then you need to just push it back a little bit. And that's what wet glue will give you. It will give you that wiggle time. Okay, press that down firmly when you're happy. Fold it back and then just make sure that you've got that flat edge there. Okay. Right, so now we've got the front, the side, and we need to put our tab on here. So this time, the tab can only go one way. You can't stick it that way because it doesn't work. So it has to go that way, like that. It's the only way it'll fit. It is very much like a jigsaw. There's only one piece will fit in one place, one way. That's exactly what this is like. So we're now going to put glue on here. Right the way along. And I really like this bookbinding glue for the simple reason that it has a really fine nozzle, but it also has a low water content, which means that it's not going to buckle and weaken the fibres of your card. So I would absolutely recommend this. A tape runner won't really be strong enough, depending on what you're going to put into it or whether you're going to hang it on the wall. But red liner tape would, but for me, wet glue every time. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to position that at the top and then push in right down the side there. Push that back in as tight as you can get it. Press that down. You can even use this as well, just to go down and press. And then fold it back. Run your finger along to make sure it's even. So we've now got our front, our side, our back. So now we need to add the next two pieces. So another tab. So tab always goes to a straight edge. And you look at that and you think that's not going to fit. Don't forget, half of it goes underneath and the other half stays out to attach to that. Okay? So same thing again. And it's exactly the same on all the different sizes. It's just that the pieces are different in size, that's all. But it's exactly the same process. So if you do an 8x8, you'll have 4 that will be the same. It's just the same whether it's rectangular or square. So glue on there, making sure I'm going right up to that tip. Not just a little bit, not even a millimetre further back, right up to it. Because if there's going to be a bit that folds back, it will be that. So right into there. Push that in. Make sure that it's lined up. Can you see what I mean about a little bit of wiggle room? It gives me that opportunity to just move and adjust that card. But when I then stick it down and press it firmly, even then I can just wiggle it around because I'm an absolute perfectionist. Can't have it a little bit out at all. And then your final piece, so your last solid piece, is then going to sit on there like that. Okay, so I'm going to then put our glue along here. And I'm almost scratching the nib on. I'm not doing this and pouring loads of glue on. I'm scratching it into that cardstock so I don't get too much. Because you don't need a lot. Down the edges. And again, just making sure I get right into those corners. And then that is going to come down there. And that is then going to sit onto there. And then just very gently just push it in. Making sure that it doesn't overlap, that it just goes up to that groove, like that. And then burnish that down. So now we have the top of our frame, or the front of our frame, get rid of that bit of glue, the side, the back, and the inside. So you've created that mitered corner piece, all right? But what we need to do is put these two pieces on to close that up. So I'm going to show you the way that I find is easiest. I'm just going to, on here you've got perforation lines on all the sides. And again, they're just in the centre, they don't go right to the end. So bend it over gently first, just to stretch that card. And then, once you've done all four, let's take that glue off my finger because that doesn't look very nice. I'm just going to do the same thing with these. And you've got two long sides and two short sides, and that's important. But that's all in the cutting file, so you don't need to think about measuring. You're just going to think about where those go when we start to glue it. Okay, so that's one done. Let's do the other one while we're at it. So I'm going to fold that over and fold that over, and this one and that one. Okay, and we're just going to use our tool to just burnish those down. If you haven't got one of these, the spatula that came with your scan and cut will work just as well. So we've now got our two ends, if you like. So if I show you this, it can't go on that way because it's too short. Can you see there's a gap? That perforation line isn't the same width as the top edge here. But when you do it that way, it fits. So again, there's only one way it can go. So we're going to put glue on one of these longer tabs or wider tabs, depending on what makes sense in your head. Put our glue in there. And we're going to put this in here. And the other reason that I wanted it to be in pieces is so that you could, and the reason why I want you to be able to change the depth is because the Amazing Apertures scenes have different quantities of layers, and if you want it to sit flush with the top of your box frame, you would have had to use loads of foam tape or loads of glue. So the reason that I've got them to make it smaller is if you want to use it for something other than that. So if you're using it for photographs, children's artwork, you're making a little mixed media piece within a box frame, you're in control of the depth of that frame, not just the overall size. So it is a little bit more work, but it's part of the creative process. So rather than thinking of it as hard work, just think of it as being creative. And then the bottom one is going to be stuck exactly the same. That longer tab there is then going to stick underneath there like that. Okay. And again, you need to make sure, I'm just going to turn this around this way, then I can see it a little bit better. You need to make sure that these are lined up perfectly, okay? And there's not really much room for error with these. They have to line up perfectly. So take your time. There's no rush, okay? Just going to let that dry now. So we've now got our full side of our box frame. So I'm going to pop that to one side to make sure it's dry completely. And I'm going to bring this one in that I did yesterday. Now this is one of the long sides. So that's the top and this is one of the long sides, but it's exactly the same. So if I put this here, you can see that this is exactly the same layout as that. All right. So we have now, see what I didn't do with this one was put a tab on here. I actually put the tab on this side on this one. It doesn't matter, it works exactly the same way. So you can either start with a tab or you can end with a tab, whichever works for you. Now if I do this, first of all, I'm going to find it really difficult to get those inside there then, because I'm not going to be able to get hold of it to hold it firmly. And what I like to do is just snip away, just make this angle a little bit shallower, like that. So just snip away a little bit, because I find that that works better, and it's just because we've made them so that they're adjustable. So it's not a problem. You just literally snip a little bit further up, and I found this made it much easier. Okay, let's get rid of those bits. So the best way to do it, I find, for me, but it might be different for you, so you know, find your own way, is to glue these tab bits in first, because then I can get to them, I can hold them in place while that glue takes. But again, make sure that you've got glue right up in to this corner here. And then you're going to fold this down, and you're going to make sure that and it's a bit tricky to do it and show you it on the camera, but we'll do our best. Push that in, and you're going to stick that tab in there, and just use your thumb to gently push. If you've got any little reverse tweezers or little craft pegs, something like that, they're great for holding it in place while it dries. But you want to push that tab up under here so that it sticks to the side. If I turn that around, you might be able to see inside there where that tab is there. So while you've got it like that, put it down on the table and just press it down from the inside, and that will guarantee that it's going to glue and hold in place. Okay, I'm going to do the same on this one, and you'll find a way that for you that it's easier to hold. And just be comfortable with it. Don't, move the project that you're working on rather than trying to twist your body to get in the right position. And then this one, now you need to make sure that this point here, this point right in this corner here, is tucked in. A bit like when you're making your bed in the morning and you're putting your sheets, tucking your sheets under. It's a bit like that. And then find a comfortable way to hold it so that you can then press that in. So that's the bit that would have been difficult if we'd have stuck this down first to get in there, okay? And then I'm going to pop it down on the table. I'm just going to get my thumb in there and make sure that that's pressed down, and then when we fold this one over, that's going to line up perfectly there, okay? But I'm going to do this side first. I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but on this side, because I sat down yesterday because I just did it automatically when I was doing my prep for the shows. I don't think about it. So I had to think about it yesterday because I was thinking about how I was going to teach it to you. And this way was the way that I found easiest. And just snipping that bit of card off makes it even easier. So I'm going to make sure that this line here, this edge, is going right up to that perforation line there, and push that in. Oh, see, it wants to keep popping open, can you see? But once you've got your wet glue, it's fine. You just have to find the right way of working, that's all. I'm doing this at a really awkward angle to try and show you. There we go, like that. And then this one, it's going to go on the inside here. Push that in. And line that up there, okay? And it is a little bit fiddly, but once you're sitting in your own home and you're not rushing to do it, it'll be a lot easier than me trying to do it for you to a camera, because you're not going to have that problem, are you? Just going to sit and enjoy it. That's the main thing. And then just make sure that that's pressed firmly underneath. And then it's like closing a box. It's like putting that lid on that box. Like that, okay? So this time I'm going to bend this backwards because it's flexible. You don't need to make it really awkward. And I'm just going to put my glue on here. like that, and the same on this tab at the side here. And then on this tab, and we're just going to do all of it at once. Right the way along there. Make sure you're getting glue right down to the bottom, because you want to make sure that it's stuck all the way down and right into those corners. So then, if I put this flat on the table, I can then fold that over, and that pops inside there. Now it'll catch on the tab inside, and it'll feel like it doesn't want to go, so just pull it back slightly and get it to go over the top of that tab that's inside. That's normal, okay? That's exactly what it will want to do. But then you just run your finger along there, and that will give you that perfect side of your frame, okay? And you can see that it all lines up perfectly like that, okay? And then that's your side of your frame. So I'm just going to pop this to one side. I'm going to make sure that this one's glued, dries properly, and then I'm going to show you all that again on the shorter side, because I just want to make sure that you've got it. Right, so seeing as I glued this one slightly differently, I'll show you this one as well, all right, just to make sure that we're happy. So we'll turn it round so that it's the right way. So that's going to be the first bit that's got the tab on there, then your side, then your back, and then that's going to close over there. So if I show you both, you can then decide which you think will be easier for you. But we're going to start again with these tabs at the top and the bottom. So the lid off my glue and go in and put the glue on here. Again, I can't stress how important it is that you get glue right up to these points. It's really important, because otherwise it wants to pull apart because there's nothing holding it in place. And also, says the professional, don't forget to cut your tabs down as well, because otherwise it wants to fold inside, and we don't want it to fold. We want it to stay nice and flat, okay? And I know I've got a few seconds to be able to do this with the wet glue, so I'm not worried about that. Right, let's get rid of those bits. So now I can go back in. You can see how quickly that glue's drying. Can you see? I'll put a little bit more on. But if you scratch it on in the first place, or if you need to put a second layer on, if something like that happens to you, then you haven't put too much glue on and it's not starting to warp it. And also it doesn't build up and become really thick, because you want that to be flush. Okay, so flat on top of there like that. I'm just going to use my nail just to press down, because this is a textured card, so make sure that it's nice and flush, because these pieces are the part that are going to glue all the frame together. So you need to make sure that you do that this bit's right. Well, all of it's right really, because then you'll have a perfect frame. So just take your time with it, that's the key. Don't rush it. Just take your time with it and make sure that you do it properly. I was going to try and make that sound polite, but there's no other way of saying it. Just make sure you do it properly. And then let that just grab. And just be patient. Don't try and move on too quickly. Okay, and I'm actually just going to use my scissors. I'm going to put the point of the scissor into there, so it's got something to, I've got something to press onto, just to make sure. Right, same on the other side now. So we're going to put our glue on our tabs and tuck that inside there. like that. And can you see there, where if I do this now, can you see how it wants to kind of stay up there? Pull that tab back, push it under, and then push it into that angle there. Okay, you're in charge of the card. Don't let the card be in charge of you. You make it do what you want it to do. And just gently manipulate that in to there, okay? Like that. And then the same on this side. Now this one you're going to have to manipulate a little bit more because you've got to get it inside now. So again, make sure, and I'm going to say this every time, you're going to be sick of me saying it, make sure you get that glue right up to those edges. And then lift this back, you see, push it in. And then make sure that that corner is lined up. So you can be really quite tough with card. You know, it's something that you can really manipulate. Don't have to be really gentle with it. Okay, quite firm with it. But it's making sure that those corners are nice and glued. Okay, so now we've got a different look to this finished one, haven't we now? Because we haven't got a tab here like we did on the other one, just because I started with the tab instead of finishing with the tab. And it doesn't matter which way round you do it, whatever you find easier. So what I'm going to do now is just bend this back slightly so I can get my glue in. And I'm going to glue this down. And even this bit here, which is going to go underneath the longer bit, you are going to put glue right into that corner. There's a theme here, isn't there? Making sure we get that glue into those corners. And if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right. And then on this tab as well. Right the way along there. And then we're going to fold this over like this. And again, we're going to make sure that we're lining up. So we don't want too much on one side and not on another. You need to make sure that you're almost pulling this card back, making sure that this edge here, this top edge, is lined up to this perforated edge here. Okay, and we're going to then push that in. And don't think, oh, that'll do. Make sure that it's right, please. Am I getting bossy now? I'm a bit, aren't I? And then just, can you see I'm pushing down with my thumb there to make sure that it's level. And then just using, there we go. So then you've got your top. So then what you've got is a side and a top and a side and a bottom, like that. And then you're going to glue these together, because you can't get it perfect unless you start to glue them. Just laying them out, you're going to push one and the other one's going to come out. There is a back piece to this as well. So one of your files has the back, and then it also has a frame, and I'll show you that. It also has a frame to go over the top, so it hides these pieces if you want. I quite like the idea of having it like this because it looks like a proper frame. So let's glue these together so that you can see. So again, right up to those edges, right into those corners, please. Get some glue on there. And then you're going to push that one into that one there. Okay, and you're going to push it in and keep hold of it until it's starting to dry. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to move on too quickly, because what will happen is that as you're trying to stick this one onto there, this one will come undone. And then you get sick of it and it goes in the bin. And then just turning that over and holding that firmly. Right, so I'm going to let that one dry. I'm going to do this one. So think about how you're working. Just think of one step ahead. Make it easier for yourself. Okay, so this one needs to go up to that one, like that. And we're going to do the same thing again. I'm going to let that take hold. And then turn it over, make sure that we're all right here as well. And this glue is going to dry clear, all right, so we're not going to see all those white areas in there. And as I said, there's a frame that you can put over the top so it covers it. So then we need to do this there and that there, and we will have our box frame. So we need to do both at once, because if we do this one, we won't then be able to get in to put the glue on that one. Okay, so get your glue on there, and we might as well do it on this one as well. We're just putting glue on one section. Like that. Okay, so you need to look at 2 points now and make sure that you're getting them both even. So that one there, and then that one will naturally want to go there. But this is the trickier bit, because you have to get focus on one and make sure that that's level. Make sure that this corner here is a perfect right angle. And then we can spin it round and we can do this one. We can push that one into there. And then this is about just holding it in place until it starts to really set. I can see that one's a little bit higher there, so I'm just going to push that down a little bit. There we go. And then turn it over and make sure what we're like on the other side. Can you see there? It needs closing in a little bit there and there. That needs to go there, and there we go. Right, fine. Right, let's see if we're going to cut a back and a frame now. So let's get our mat. And this is what your mat should look like if you're using your scan and cut enough. Honestly. And stencil glue. We all know how brilliant stencil glue is now, don't we, for retacking our mats. Mine get retacked a lot. Press it down firmly, okay? And make sure that you don't just go around the edge like that. Go in the middle. Because your card might be nice and secure around the edge, but it needs to also be in contact with the mat in the middle. Because otherwise, if you get a bubble there, the blade has no contact with the mat underneath, so you won't get a clean cut. Right, so let's go back to the home screen, and we'll go Pattern, Save Data, USB, into the SVG cutting files, into the box frames, and into the rectangle. And you've got back 1, which has the little notch in it to hang it, and you have back 2, which has it in a portrait mode. So you can have it whichever way you prefer. So we'll have back 1. I'm going to press OK, and I'm going to get it to cut that. All right. So what we're going to do now is load our mat. And on the CM series, it doesn't matter which way you load it. it will go in either end, and then we just press OK and cut. And my settings for this, I'm going to put my blade down to 5. Actually, I don't know, I've no idea how old this blade is, so we'll just have to see. But in my settings, I've got my cut speed on 5 always, and my cut pressure on 1. I'm just going to ask it to cut that out. There we go. Unload my mat and pop that to one side. And then this is going to fit perfectly on the top of there as your back, okay, like that. Clever, isn't it? So I'm then going to put glue onto here, and I'm just literally going to scribble this glue on. You would take more time at home, and you make sure that you've got a nice coverage on the back. And then you could paint this, so if you're into your mixed media, you could put your gesso onto this. You could then add gilding waxes, you know, all those fabulous things that we bring you from the Cadence brand. You could be adding all that in. You could cover it in pattern paper if you wanted to, just by cutting the pieces out again, these angled pieces again, and covering it. It's up to you. It's your box frame. You can do what you want with it. So then this is then going to go onto here, like that. And just centralise it. There we go. And I would actually do 2 of these just to give that some strength. The other thing that you could do is take the file of the back into Canvas Workspace, get rid of the rectangle, and create, just keep this shape and create a 2-3mm outward offset line. And if you've got the educational USB, it teaches you how to, I teach you how to do that. And then just cut that out of a thicker piece of card, and that will strengthen it. A bit like an eyelet that you used to get when you were at school and you used to do it on your ring binder, binder files. That will work. And then you just strengthen that. And then we're going to turn this over. So you can see now you've got the holder, the little slot there. And then I'm going to show, we're going to do the front frame. So let's see what the file's called for that. So we're going to press home. When it says OK to delete, you're not deleting it off the USB. You're deleting it off your screen, so it's fine. And then pattern, save data, USB, into your cutting files, into your box frame, into your rectangle. So we've got 2 backs. You've got your frame mat. So that's the piece that you're going to put over the top. So we're going to press OK. And move that in slightly. I always like to move it in just slightly, then it doesn't, you don't end up getting really, really worn at the top of your mat. Get rid of that. Why am I trying to pick that off with my nail when I've got a scraper? There we go. And then, now you could do these in different colours. It's up to you. My hands aren't working today. There we go. I'm going to put this on there, burnish that down, like that, and then we're going to load the mat. Okay, so what we do now is press OK and cut. As soon as that lights up, it's ready to go, and it will now cut us that frame. So you've got a rectangle that you can scan in and use again. We don't need that. And also you've got your piece of card that is the outside, so you can still use all this and scan it in. And then this is the bit that's going to go on the front of your box frame. So we bring our box frame back in, and then that will fit perfectly onto there, like that. And that, stick it down, we might as well finish it, hey? let's just scribble some glue around here, but again at home make sure that you go right up to the edges. And if you look at it and you think actually I'd like that a little bit wider, just adjust the size of those rectangles. Or you can use the rectangle that's in your machine's memory and make one. You could have a scallop shape on the outside or a pattern shape on the outside and a straight one on the inside, or vice versa. If you got the kit and caboodle USB with all the frames on, you could make one of those frames fit it. It really is whatever you want to do with it and how you want to decorate it. But I just really wanted to show you how easy it is to put it together. You just need to be a little bit patient and make sure that everything's lined up perfectly. And then that is going to sit on there. Just going to nudge that over slightly. Get rid of that glue that's on my hands. And just pop that in place. Like that. And then a little bit of gilding wax maybe around the edges, or a bit of ink. And you have created your own box frame. There you go. Ready to go. Isn't that cool? I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope it's been helpful. And I'm off now. I'm going to go and film some more stuff for you. See you in a bit.